What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Moto Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Nesler. We come to you each and every week to talk to you about the business of moto. Guests in the industry that have done incredible things, guests in the industry that are building incredible things, and sometimes even special guests from outside the industry that can bring you some incredible knowledge to help you build your moto career. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast. We got a great guest for you today. We'll introduce him here in just a moment. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this episode. A repeat guest, and those are always we bring the best back for another episode, obviously. So before we dive in, just want to give a shout out to some of the folks that support us and the projects that we have going on and make this podcast possible. Obviously, our friends at Michelin Bicycle Tires. Everybody knows and loves Randy, and man, they're making some great tires for your dirt bike, right? The Starcross 6 just came out, but man, they make some amazing bicycle products, whether it's for your road bike, your BMX bike, your mountain bike. Be sure to give them a test. I know there's a lot of options out there, but the e-bike team that I run, we use their products. They're amazing. We love them. We stand by that they're the best. Also, our friends at 100%. We obviously know they're the leader when it comes to vision in moto with goggles, but they make a lot more than that, whether it be mountain bike gear, mountain bike helmets and protection, sport performance sunglasses. A lot of us here at Impakt and our team run those, and man, they always get a lot of compliments, and they look great, they work great. They got something for everybody, so be sure to check them out. Man, I got a lot of compliments at the GNCC this past weekend about something that I was carrying around with me, and if you're watching on the YouTube channel, you'll see that I'm holding up one of those sweet beer sleeves that you see people at NASCAR races or, man, really any event that there are just people there to party. You see them carrying these around. I've wanted one since I was a kid, and I've never had one until Racer X recently came out with their new promo. It's their Moto with a twist, and they're partnered with Twisted Tea. You can fill this thing full of Twisted Tea, keep it on your back, keep it cool all day long. If you don't feel like paying for overpriced drinks going to these events, maybe it's a GNCC, maybe it's an outdoor national, maybe you're going to a NASCAR race. Pack that thing full, and you're set for a good day. The way you can get one of these is to subscribe or renew to Racer X. Be sure to go to racerxonline.com/moto marketing. It's the only way you can get them. I had a lot of people trying to take this from me last weekend, and I held on to it just for the podcast today, so be sure to grab yours as well. All right. So we've got a guest for you that we've been wanting to get back on for some time just because, man, I really enjoyed our conversation with them previously. They've had a lot of exciting stuff going on over the past couple of years, and we want to dive into. We got Andy White with us from FXR. Andy, it's always a pleasure talking to you, man. Thanks for joining us again.
Oh, my pleasure. Glad to be back.
Yeah.
And talk about one of my favorite items, motocross and racing and FXR.
Yeah. Oh, I tell you, it's been a crazy couple of years, just the sport in general, and this past year, this past Supercross season, and now going into the Nationals. I mean, Supercross was exciting. We're as of recording this, we're going into Thunder Valley, so we've had 2 rounds that the racing has been good, the action has been exciting, and you guys are obviously heavily involved with teams and riders and whatnot. So, what are some of the exciting things that you guys have going on right now, or have been working on in the past several months?
Well, a big focus is the Club MX motocross team, Supercross, with all their riders, March Banks, Nicoletti, Alex Martin, and making sure that these guys are looking great for Supercross and developing gear for them and working with their partners like Muck-Off and Yamaha, Garnet and FMF, and trying to promote, everybody at the same time. TV is super important. We get a lot of eyes on the gear, and our riders get a lot of attention. They get good starts, or they're always seem to be sitting next to a superstar or whatever. So we get a lot of camera time, and that's big for us. So we're doing everything we can for Supercross. We also focus on motocross, which is happening right now, and we're trying to do the same thing. We also work on European racing GPs. We've got some good riders competing in the GPs and also off-road. So we're trying to focus in all the areas and build the best gear we can. And performance gear that these riders will appreciate racing with.
Yeah. I've always been curious about and I know it's not just me. Any fan has always been curious about the relationship between a rider and, their gear partner. You guys, I feel like there's been a bit of a shift here in the past year, and a cool shift. I mean, it's been cool seeing you guys get behind some bigger name riders, some teams, things like that. You guys were and still very much are, a privateer hero brand. Like, you saw a lot of privateers, repping your stuff. You guys have done a lot for privateers, and now you've started to get involved with teams such as the Club MX and guys like Nicoletti and those guys. And some would argue that they're still privateers, but man, they're personalities. They're big, bold personalities in the sport. Marchbanks is kind of stepping into his own, getting on the bigger bike and getting more exposure and putting his personality out there as well. How do you guys make the decision of who you want to partner with? Or is it in a scenario like Club MX? Do they come to you and present the value that they can bring to you as a team? How does that work? I've always genuinely been curious about that.
Well, we don't own the team. We're just a partner of the team. But the owner of the team, Brandon, he's very transparent and open, and he'll throw some names on the table that he's looking at that he feels that would bring club to the next level. And we work with them with other partners and put our 2 cents in, and yes, this guy would be great, or what I think or whatever. And we're usually all on the same page. We're all looking for the best of the best, budget wise. And if they've got good social media reach, that's a bonus. If they've been good amateurs and, just a good friendly rider that people like, then it's kind of a green light in my view. So I think we're all on the same page, and it makes it easy because we all want the same thing. Yeah. When it comes to privateers coming up, we also look at them as potential future, I wouldn't say superstars, but good ambassadors for our gear and for our product. And just recently, Freddie Noren, we've been sponsoring the last couple of years, was kind of poached from us, and Butler Brothers needed a rider, so they approached them, and he was nice enough to come to us and say, hey, this is what's happening. Are you okay with me, going onto this program and maybe getting some extra help? And we're like, sure, we're not going to stand in your way at all. Sure. We're here to help you to get to the next level. We don't want this happening all the time, but if it happens once in a while, that's fine. And we just lost another rider, actually today. It sounds like, we're going to have another privateer that's decent in off-road that's going to be joining a team. I can't really say it until they launch it. Sure. But again, another one of our good privateers that we put some effort into is being asked to join a decent team. Yeah, which is great. I'm happy for those riders. Things like this happen. So I expect it to happen again over and over and over as we grow as a company. And when we have the Club MX team, those riders aren't going to be poached and go anywhere. They're going to stay on that team and stay there. And we're looking for riders to look at that team to possibly join that team down the road and become a club rider that we can support at the highest level. So
I'm gonna ask some questions that, again, I've always had. If we ask something that you're not comfortable asking, it'll be edited out. They'll never know about it. So feel free to tell me, hey, I can't answer that. But if you're comfortable with it, that's great. So I know it ranges, and there's massive companies that you guys compete and run right along with, but they probably have an endless bank account. So they're throwing a lot of money at these bigger riders. When you guys are sponsoring somebody like a Freddie Noren, it can be him or anybody, and maybe they step away and they go, get a fill-in rider. Like Chiz left his privateer program and went to Star for a couple rounds. Does it get awkward in those scenarios because you are financially supporting those riders too, or are you guys involved sometimes at a capacity with a rider that you're simply providing them with what is essentially to them hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of gear during the season, but you haven't really wrote them a check for the season, so it's not like you're getting screwed out of the money that you've invested in that rider. Or is it different for different riders? How does that work? Because I know it's also very different for different riders at different levels and different gear brands.
Well, like for Chiz, he's another good example that was requested to ride on the star team, and he's a main event guy, and he's been around a long time. He's a veteran, and he deserves to be paid for what he does. So we pay him for Supercross, and it's over a season. And he came to us and said, listen, I've got this opportunity. It's going to be for 5 or 6 rounds. We're like, okay, so you're going to be compensated by that team for those rounds. So we won't pay you for those until you come back. So we arrange a program that we're both happy with. It's kind of built into their contract a little bit because I know these things are going to happen anyways. So we have some guidance right there to move forward. And like, again, we didn't stand in his way. We wanted him to go and get some exposure and show the world that he can ride. And, it was pretty cool. I don't think anybody's ever done that in the sport where, today they rode the 450 in our FXR gear, and the next weekend they rode a Star 250 in Thor for 2 or 3 rounds, and then they jumped back onto a 450 in FXR, and then back to a Star Thor again. It was like,
I mean, in a weird way, I guess it kind of that story, even though he's in a competitor's gear on Star, like his story this year had to, at some capacity, helped out FXR because so many people were following him. It just kind of everybody knows Chiz and everybody follows him, but maybe a little bit extra some weeks to see like, hey, how's he doing? Because he's got this unique ride. But then when he's back on his privateer program in your gear, like he might have some extra eyeballs on it. Did you guys kind of ever think of it that way, or were you just trying to help him out because you like the guy and he's kind of earned his keep?
I knew it'd get lots of eyeballs on him, and on his social media, he's got some good following. So people are going to go there and check it out, and they're going to see the FXR when magazines or social media posts are probably not going to have pictures of him in Thor right away. So they'll use FXR pictures. The stories will go on, but he'll be back in FXR. So I feel that we're still getting some marketing out of it, even not having to pay him for those couple rounds. We still got good coverage. And I think it was a good story for everybody. And we wouldn't stop him from doing that anyway. So I don't think it was a negative in any way for us. If anything, it was a positive.
Yeah. So I've always kind of found it unique with, there's so many gear brands, and a select handful of you are like the premier brands. And FXR has worked their way into that category. Like you guys are one of the brands out there. Fly has done a similar thing over the past several years. They're one of the premier brands out there. But some of the brands that have been around for years and are just absolutely massive, you have your Alpine Stars, your Fox, your Thors. I don't know, and I could be dead wrong in this. You guys are working with some bigger name riders now, but you also really do support privateers, and you really try to help privateer programs, individual riders out, while you're still getting bigger and bigger with the riders that you have attached to your name. I don't know that Thor does that. I don't know that Alpine Stars or Fox really does that. Is that something that you guys think will always be part of your program, like really trying to, like a Chiz? And I know, again, Chiz might be an anomaly, like he's been around forever, but it is what it is. Chiz is a privateer. Do you think you guys will always work with the privateer, but also if you ever have an opportunity to grab, you name the bigger rider, maybe Justin Cooper goes off and is on the market when he goes to the 450s, like do you ever see yourself trying to grab a premier rider as well as still working with the privateers? Or is there a reason why, those 3 brands that I listed before really only attach themselves to the biggest of names? Does that make sense?
It definitely does. It makes a lot of sense. And it's a big question because those riders that you're talking about, that Dylan Ferrandis and the Dean Wilsons and all the way up to Tomax.
Right.
I mean, their salaries are anywhere from $200 to $1 million for gear. And to sell, if you get a guy in the middle, say Marvin at 500 or 600 grand, you got to sell a lot of gear to pay a rider $600,000 of cash. Does he bring that value in to sell to get to that next level? That I don't know if anybody can answer that question. Now, in my view, Fly, Thor, they're connected to a big distributor, so they have big catalogs and they have a lot of money. They're not spending their marketing money from their tires, chains, and sprockets. They're using that money for the athletes at Supercross to promote parts or to promote WPS. I don't have that luxury of a massive catalog to take budget from other areas to throw onto the motocross side. So I have to be careful on how I spend my money and where I spend it, and my best bang for the buck. And remember, we've only been doing this on the moto side for about 6 years now.
Yeah.
So competing with companies like Fox that have been 25 plus years, it doesn't put me in the same category. Same with Fly. They've been around for a long time. Thor, they've been around for a long time. We're still gaining momentum right now. And I'm spending the money in the best way I feel to grow the sales, help the dealers, and grow our program worldwide. And I see the growth on our side. I see the sales numbers growing. I see how much more inventory we're bringing in. So whatever I'm doing seems to be working.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I'm not spending that 500 grand on a top athlete at the moment.
Yeah.
Do I see us doing that down the road? Definitely. We've had the agents call us and knock on our doors and ask us about opportunities. And we've just said, we're not quite ready at the moment, maybe down the road, but don't forget about us.
Yeah.
The club team is not a cheap adventure. It's an expensive adventure. They had 6 riders on the program this year. In Atlanta, they had 7 plus their amateur 8 riders. So that's a lot of gear to make for these guys, custom made, and support them with helmets and gear and, head to toe, whatever it is, weekend in, weekend out, plus pay the team money to support this whole program. So that is a big adventure, but it's one team that does East Coast and West Coast. So they're getting lots of eyeballs on both coasts. They got 450 guys, they got 250 guys. So we're kind of playing in all the categories. So
I think that's
safe.
I don't want to call it a dream team, but I mean, it is such an ideal team for somebody like FXR that has the strategies that you guys have, to where you're not going and grabbing $1 million rider. But man, I would argue that the personalities on that FXR team for a brand like you guys are more valuable than an Eli Tomac or a Marvin Muscan or something, because honestly, it's crazy to even say this or think this. A lot of their personality and their popularity comes from one guy. They wouldn't be where they're at, in my opinion, if it wasn't for Mathis and what Pulp has built. But like, you look at the personalities that he's elevated. Phil, everybody loves Phil. That has to be valuable for you. You've got A-Mart over there. You've got J-Mart coming over next year, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I don't know if he'll be in your gear, if it's something different, but you've got Enzo on that team. You've got these guys that are just fan favorites. Is that kind of something that you guys talk about, to where it's like, man, you know what? This isn't just like a team that's like the Firepower Honda team. Like, they've got some really good riders. I never see them in between races. I see and hear Phil. I see Alex Martin's vlogs, like Enzo Lopes. Like, these guys are on social media, and they've got these personalities, and they're on Pulp a lot because they've got those personalities. Is that something of value to you guys that you take into consideration when sponsoring that team?
Oh, absolutely. Nicoletti has got a history. He works with Racer X. He has features on him. He's on the shows. He goes on the Pulp with Steve. He's very vocal. That's a win-win in my books. Lopes is great too. He's Brazilian. We sell a lot of product in Brazil. He's got tons of followers. When he posts something, it's ridiculous how many people reply on his program. Alex Martin, he's been around for a long time. The Martin family in Minnesota is massive. He's got a big following. And then, you've got
Marchbanks, yeah.
who's got a big following, came from pro circuit. Everybody thought he was kind of down and out, and it's an awesome story where, man, he finished 8th in Moto 1 this past weekend in Hangtown. If Caroli and Dungey weren't there, he'd be 6th in Moto 1, which is
and he's still young.
And he's 20 years old.
Yeah.
He's still maturing. He's still figuring this out. And he's out there pounding motos with guys that $1 million contracts. And we're trying to give him the best support we can, and we're riding the wave. And, then we've got guys like Dominic Thury that was a support rider on the club team from Germany. And he's doing videos and vlogs back home to Germany in German. And we sell a lot of gear in Germany. So that's a win-win on our part as well. So all these guys have different personalities, and we take advantage of their personalities and what they're doing. And when you sponsor a team, you just don't throw money at the team. You got to go and sponsor the rider and help that rider to promote himself as well. So we're always backing our riders the best we can. Freddie Noren, Swedish. Sweden's a massive market for us as well. So it's a win-win for the Swedes to watch Freddie in Supercross.
Yeah.
They might be cheering on Ken or Sexton or someone, but they're always checking to see where Freddie is because he's from their home country.
Yeah.
So I feel that's a win-win as well on our part. And that's kind of the angle that I go at right now, and try and work with these athletes to maximize our reach the best I can.
I don't know if you can speak to this yet, but obviously we all heard that Jeremy is going to be coming over to the Club MX team next year, which is massive. I think that's a big. It's been crazy to watch the growth of that Club MX team. I mean, it was just Club MX, and then they kind of started a team, and now, I mean, they're getting one of the premier riders in the sport. Will he be? Do we know yet? Is it just part of the team deal? Will he be wearing FXR? Is it kind of to be determined yet? Is it something you can speak to by chance?
Sure. He'll be sliding right under the truck, sitting right next to Nicoletti, wearing FXR gear with the 6D helmet and our ride goggles that we have. So he'll be wearing the same gear that Marchbanks and his brother is wearing right now, and we'll take care of him the best we can, and we'll use and abuse him as much as I can to promote him worldwide with that single digit number 6 on him.
You got to be thrilled about that. I mean, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm super thrilled to have him on board. And our head office for the U.S. is based in Minneapolis, and Millville is not that far.
Yep.
And I mean, it's going to be crazy when he shows up at Millville this year to spectate and hang around and shake hands. And we'll dress them head to toe in FXR, casual and whatnot, and hopefully it gets a lot of attention for us. And when we spend the money on these athletes, obviously we had to invest some more money into the program because Jeremy is a high level athlete. We're going to spend extra money and on the team plus the marketing side to make sure we get the bang for the buck on this one. So we're going to go all out on Jeremy, and I think he appreciates it and knows that we build really good gear. And I'm hoping that's part of the program reason why he probably switched over Club. And Club started as a small program many years ago, but you have to remember that Club's been around for a long time. And a lot of the riders that are competing at the highest level actually went through the whole Club program back in the day. I mean, Justin Brayton, Osborne, just to say 2 guys right there, have been at Club forever and ever and ever and still go back and ride. Nicoletti's been there for a long time. Many riders have gone through this program. McAdoo. McAdoo was part of the Club program for about a month or 2 until Mitch came calling and basically took him away. So a lot of these riders have started at the Club program, and they've got a fantastic facility. It's not in Florida. It's a little bit more north. Dirt's a little different. It's not all sand, and they've got many different tracks. They've got gyms and nutrition, and it's not in a busy town. So these guys can actually stay at the track and focus on their racing and focus on their training. And I think it's an awesome location for anybody that's looking to get to the next level. I mean, you've got so many different riders with different riding abilities that are riding against each other. mean, how cool would it be to line up on the practice track with Jeremy or Alex or Nicoletti
Sure. Yeah.
or Marchbanks? I mean, that's pretty crazy. You can't do that anywhere else, I don't think.
You had said something a little bit ago that I didn't realize. So, Brandon, you're talking about Brandon Shaw, right?
No, Brandon Haas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I got you.
yeah.
So, now the one that is it Brandon Shaw? Is that correct? That races some of the nationals.
Yeah, he's
okay. He's a trainer though, right?
Yeah, he's a full-time trainer at the track, helping the amateurs and even helping the pros. And when we need a rider to step in to fill an injured rider like Phil or Enzo, he's the first guy to put his hand up and say, "Hey,
That's
man,
awesome.
I'm ready to go. Let's go."
For a second, I thought I wasn't incorrect, but for a second, I was like, "Wait, he's the owner?" And then for a minute, I'm like, "The owner of Club MX is racing nationals and so there's two Brandons. I got it. Yeah, that's a group of guys, and maybe you can help me make that connection. I'd love to have them on the podcast. It's such an awesome story what they've built. I think they'd be a really, really great episode. So we can talk about that off air.
Sure.
As we kind of wrap things up, I wanted to touch on just your guys' kind of R&D and development. You guys no doubt make some of the absolute best gear, one of the highest quality products available, and I think the proof is in the pudding. If you get somebody like Chris Kiefer to come work directly with you guys when he is, a self-proclaimed gear snob that he is, like he's very particular about everything that goes on into his motorcycle and the gear that he wears. And, he's been working with you guys for, I guess, a little over a year now. When you're developing, like, do you guys test and the same way that a motorcycle OEM or parts manufacturer, the same way that they test? Are you doing so with somebody like Kiefer and your riders to where you're getting feedback and always trying to evolve and develop the product? And if so, what are some of the things that you guys are always looking to improve, whether it be something as simple and boring as the zipper functionality or like the stretch of a panel? Like how does all that work in your guys' world?
Good question. So the owner of the company, Milt Reimer, actually rides 3-4 times a week. He has his own track facility in Minneapolis called the BP Ranch, and that's where actually Dungy rides on a regular basis with him.
Oh, wow.
And Milt is a good, strong vet rider, raced at Loretta's. He's actually going this weekend to qualify, and he'll go out and pound motos in the gear that we're developing for the Marchbanks, for the Martins, the Brownies, and he'll try it, give feedback to the guys at the office, Carson and Jeff and those guys, and they'll go over different materials and different cuts and try and figure out the best of the best, and then send out some sets to Chris Kiefer and get Chris to go out there and give us some feedback. And we also have guys like Brock Tickle that are, still factory level riders that are seat bouncing on a daily basis in Supercross, and they're putting a lot of wear and tear on this gear. So we're getting a lot of feedback from guys like that. And even in the off-road program with Cody Webb, who is, a champion in his own, and he develops and helps us develop gear. We've got Renner, who's a freestyle guy. He's out there testing gear, making sure that he can do all his tricks in the air and not have a product that won't allow him to do those famous tricks. So we're getting a lot of good feedback from these athletes, and we'll be developing gear for weeks and months, and it might not even come to the design table ever and maybe become a failure, or it might become a product that we want to develop a little bit more and actually develop for the 24 collection or the 25 collection, because you can't just develop it today and then implement it into production in the next couple of weeks. I mean, it's impossible to do that. So we're always looking at feedback from the athletes, and we look at a lot of pictures of our athletes competing from the back to the front, see how the pant is staying up on the rider, how the knees look, how the leather looks, how the stitching is, are they ripping in different areas? You can build the pants perfect and and then say, okay, let's tuck it in, let's make it a little bit tighter around the thigh, but then it'll put too much stress somewhere else and then rip the pants somewhere else. And you're like, okay, back to the drawing board. Let's go back a little bit and start from where we had a good product. So we're always trying to improve it. I mean, sometimes the pant might be a little bit tighter than it was the year before. And some riders might say, oh my gosh, I can't fit in this pant anymore. Well, they might have been a large 32 and not a regular 32. They might have been actually supposed to be in a 34 pant, but they're squeezing into a 32. Not everybody's the same size 32. You can be a small or a large. So we're trying to build the best performance pant we can that helps the rider allow the air to flow through, not hold them back from moving around the bike, and wear it at the same time at a good rate where it doesn't wear out like a laminate tear off in one moto.
Yeah.
You know, we want it to last, but we don't want to build it so bulletproof that no air flows through it and the colors change, but we don't want that. We want it to look high performance at all times. Now we have 4 different levels of gear, from our high performance, high end, to our entry level, but we still put as much effort into our entry level gear as we do the high end to make sure that the colors and the fabric and the material look great and they stretch properly, but at a reduced price, so the dealers can sell it and get the local kids, the weekend warriors, riding our gear and feeling good in our gear.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work
for everybody.
For everybody. So we're always developing, even the jerseys, even the gloves, all the times, and there's a lot more effort put into that than people think. It's 24/7 all the time, scratching your head, shipping back and forth. I mean, the shipping costs on this product, shipping back and forth, is ridiculous, but we want to make sure that we bring the best product to the table. And I think the best advertising that you can have is when a rider says, you know what, this is the best fitting gear I've ever had, or best gear that doesn't wear out, or it doesn't have holes in it after a weekend, and they tell their friends. And I feel that is the best marketing possible. A picture in a magazine is great, but when someone tells you, man, this is the best fitting gear, how can you beat that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the opinions of others go a very long way, and it's like that in anything. I mean, you know, we can advertise to the moon and back, but if we have one client say something good about us, it goes a long way. So, absolutely. Man, I've enjoyed this. I appreciate you being as transparent as you have been. I think. You know, I work in the industry, but just in a different aspect of it. I'm not at the races. I'm not having behind the scenes, you know, meetings with, you know, teams and folks like you. So I wonder the same questions that a lot of our fans wonder. And it's, you know, what do these riders make? How do these, like, are they just getting free gear? Are they getting paid? Like, it's in you know, like, how do brands like FXR and then Fox all coexist when, like you said, the bankroll of some of these companies are just massive, but you guys all offer, you know, a product that looks the same, but is obviously, everybody has something very different about their brand. So this has been really cool. I personally have enjoyed this, and I think our listeners will as well. And you're always a great guest, so we definitely will have you back on, and I'll be in touch with you here soon, and we'll try to get some of the guys from Club MX on. And yeah, I mean, I always enjoy having you on, Andy, and talking business with you.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate it, and I wish we had more time. There's so much more to tell on this program. We could go on for hours and hours.
We can do. I tell you what. Why don't we? We'll touch base in the next week or so, and we can set up a part 2, because people are always very interested in anything gear and apparel side of the business. And if you've got more that you think we can talk about, man, I'm all game for it. So let's set up a part 2, and we'll go from there.
Excellent. I look forward to it.
Awesome. Andy, I appreciate it. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to go to racerxonline.com/Moto Marketing. Subscribe. You're always going to get something cool when you subscribe or renew. And again, this month you're getting the awesome Twisted Tea koozie, cooler, sling thing, whatever it is. The Moto with a twist. Go grab yours today, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to the Moto Marketing Podcast. If your goal is to get real, measurable results from your marketing that will grow your company revenue, then check out how Impakt Media can get the same results that they have for Moto's most iconic brands by visiting thinkimpakt.com. That's THINKIMPAKT.com. Have a marketing question that you want answered on the show? Send your questions to questions@motomarketingpodcast.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast.